08 36 Bighorn. The water closet on this camper is up in here. Hot water heater's here, the furnace is here. The black tank is right about there. The first gray is there and the second gray is there. But for some reason, maybe weight, they put the 75-gallon water tank here, maybe because it's over the axle. And it is a covered belly. I'll show you that in a second. But it is a ways from the heated. The water closet there has a furnace vent in it, so heat does vent into there. But last year twice, I'm a full-timer here, and last year twice, this water tank froze up and so did the line. So today I'm going to try and install basically a 120 volt heating pad along the bottom of it. Most modern RVs come with it, but this one didn't. First thing we got to do with the belly pan is remove the bolts holding it in place. These were 5/16 or 7mm if you're going that route, but they're all along the bottom, they're in the middle. The water tank is in this area underneath, right above the axles. It also, I keep the styrofoam to keep heat under the bay, but it also bolts on top of the shelf. There's a water line that runs along there that goes up to the front. That is your feed and to the pump. So now we got to get the belly pan out from under the gas lines and around all the dump valves. Just slowly pull it out. I've unbolted it all the way back to the axles. That's going to be my blanket to lay on when I'm underneath there. It is cracked in a few places. These do dry out, and that's the drain line for the main tank. Got to make sure you pull it through without damage. Keep working it, keep working it. You can see there's a bubble wrap insulation layer that goes along the belly of the, or runs along the top of the cover in the belly to hold heat in. It has had some water leaking on it, which kind of bothered me, but I will show you here in a second where I found where that was possibly coming from. And there's the tank, there's the cover down. And we're starting to see the freshwater tank. It's 75 gallons. It looks like it's just setting on a piece of chipwood with the metal brackets kind of holding it in place. I did find out by looking over the top, it is not secured down. You can, when that tank's empty, you'll see here in a second, you can just push it up and down, which is going to be a benefit to us. You can kind of see the lines, the electrical lines there. There is the vent line, and as you can see from the white around the outside, it is loose and it has been leaking. So we're going to cut that line and we're going to take that plug out and we're going to reseal it. There's some writing from the factory, basically over the top. The gray for the kitchen's on the other side of it, but there's nothing holding it down, just gravity. And there's the metal bracket, and as you can see, it is loose, which is going to be a benefit to us. You can look at the wood. It's been wet from where it was leaking out the vents. I do try and keep this tank full, and possibly the fact that it's so full, there's a vent line on each corner, that it is possible that they just leak water out. So I'm going to fix them. I don't have the wood to replace or fix today, so that'll be a future project where I'll have to replace that wood. But I am going to let it air and dry out a bit. There's the water line and the fill line going back to the front. The big line obviously is the fill line, and then the one that runs beside it's the vent. The actual water line that goes to the pump is the one down there in the bottom. You see that there. You can also see up in there that hose that's open. That is a duct from the heater. So that does heat the belly. That does produce heat down in here. There's another one on the other side. That's the dump valve. You can see it's got a cable that runs up to the water closet. That's for the black tank. That one's for the gray that runs to the kitchen one that's behind this tank. There's that heater vent again. The tank we're looking at is the black tank, and the other gray tank for the bathroom is inside that trough. It's below the black tank. You can just see the bottom of it right here. And it has its own cover that I have unbolted. I've lifted the tank off the wood here, and as you can see, it's kind of dirty and moldy. We're going to clean that before we put this electric pad on here. Now I'm going to lift the tank up off the wood, and I'm going to put a piece of block wood in there to kind of hold it up. We're going to clean it a little bit. We're going to try and get that. I use alcohol and then clean towels. But first we're going to cut. We're going to cut this out. The reason we're cutting this out is the heating pad has two sections on it where the thermostats go. They tell me that you can put the heating pad in between the wood and the tank, that the weight of the tank won't hurt the heating elements because they're flat. But the thermostats that are in the pad, they have to be able to expand and contract. So that block of wood up in there is going to kind of hold it up away while I clean it. Now I can use the oscillating tool and I can cut the wood without worried about cutting the tank. Originally what I was going to do was, if I can't get the tank off the wood, I was going to use a router and then just keep the router not quite where it went all the way through the wood, and then I was going to use a chisel and kind of pry it out. But since I was able to get a couple of inch gap in there, this section that I've cut out is only for the thermostats. Now here's my cleaning. I put rags on a piece of wood so I could get it way back in there, and then I could wipe it down. There's alcohol on there. I used a little soap at first, and now I've got alcohol on there to try and sanitize it. And you want that surface to be as clean as possible and as dry as possible. See, here's the heating pad, and if you look, you'll see these dimples on the very end of it. There's one on each side. Those are the thermostats, and they have to be able to expand. This is the pad I used. I'll put links to different pads and different things. It's a sticky back, so it's got to be above 50-60 degrees. Yep. So the pad's going to go up, underneath, and to where it doesn't, I'm going to just slide it so it doesn't stick to the tank till I get it all up in there. And then we'll use the weight of the tank to hold it in place. So there, it's slid up in there. You see the paper's off of it, so the sticky's exposed, but it's not touching the tank yet. You don't want it to curl up, so make sure that it's completely flat. And you don't want it touching the tank yet, because again, we want to get all the bubbles and everything out of it. We kind of want to work it from one end to the other to stick to the tank. Now I've pushed it up in there, and I'm using a clean towel this time between the wood and the pad. That way I'm going to work it back and forth. I'm going to press it up against the tank, and I'm going to try and get it as secure as possible. I'm putting this foil backing plate between the wood and the pad. You don't have to. I just do it to give it a little extra cushion. Now here's where I've taken out that plug. I went ahead and put water tape on there. I'm just showing you how it would go back together at this point, because I haven't taken the hose off yet. But I just wrapped it in tape, plumber's tape. from the factory, they had these metal bands on there, automatic crimps. So if you'll see, they overlap, and there's a little bitty tab right there, and you get the tool underneath it and you pry it off that tab, and then it comes off. Then you can just screw it in there, put the piece of hose on there, and I just used a worm clamp. Now here's the wire that I'm going to run to the front. It's a 110, so I'm going to hook it into a Govee Wi-Fi plug so I can control it with Home Assistant and off the phone app. I'm going to run it in that channel, and then I'm going to secure it with wire ties. The hose, this is the water hose that goes to the pump. I'm going to end up running a heat line. That's it right there. It's an electric heat line, and I'm going to run it the length of the hose, and I'm going to wire tie it to that hose about every foot. This is 12 volts, so this will have to go to a 12 volt circuit, and I'm going to use a Shelly. There, it's wire tied on. I'm going to use a Shelly to control it. Now I've got a feed stick for cable feeding, and I've run it all the way up to the, it's just a fiberglass stick. You can see it goes all the way to the front, and then I taped my wires to it, and then I went to the front, and here I am from the front. Here comes the stick, and I'm just going to pull the wires up into the water bay, so then I can attach them to there's a 110 outlet in there, and then in a future video I'll hook that 12 volt up. You can just hook it directly to a battery or to a switch, but I'm going to hook it to a circuit so I can control it. And there I'm pulling it up. So on the back side of the tank, I went ahead and put another one in there so it doesn't change the angle of the tank. Just from front to back so the tank lays on the wood evenly. I went ahead and wrapped that water line in styrofoam, or that's not styrofoam, and yeah, I guess it is. You can get them at a big box store, but I've already put that on there, the electric wire, and I've gone ahead and put that on there and ran it all the way to the front. Just extra protection, because if it's going to freeze, that line is the smallest thing in there, and those small lines will freeze actually before the tank will, because there's just not a lot of volume in them. This is the pad now. It's plugged into the Govee app, and it is plugged into the Govee Wi-Fi controller that is set up. And as you can see, the room temperature is living room, but the water bay, that I've got the sensor mounted to the side of the tank, is showing 39.2 degrees right now. And it's kind of done different things throughout the day, throughout the night. So I go down here and it says RV tank heater. And right now I've got it turned off. No power, no current, no voltage. So we're going to turn it on. And since it's below 44 degrees, you can see the voltage is 119. It's drawing 1.17 amps and 139 watts. So it really doesn't draw a whole lot of power, which is kind of a good thing, because if you're running space heaters or anything like that, you got to remember, in a camper, outside of the battery, when you're plugged into the pedestal, you're usually at 30 amps or 50 amps. So, you know the formula, the volts times amps equals watts. So you can do the division to get you the other way around, but you're only playing with so many. So the fact it's only drawing 1.17, which your typical space heater is going to draw, I don't know, anywhere from 10 to 12, can be up to 15 if they're really high, but mostly anywhere from 5 to 10 depending on the wattage. So this gives you extra room to go. I'll probably have other videos showing how I hooked it up in different situations. You can just plug it into a 110 outlet, and obviously that will just come on and off whenever the pad thermostat tells it to, which is not a bad thing. I just want to be able to control it and want to be able to see it remotely, because I am actually several hundred miles away from the camper at this moment. So I'm going to turn it off. Since we're not in any danger at the moment, tonight I'll have it running. Thank you and good camping.